All right, greetings, good morning, and welcome to Mind the Moment. This, my friends, is our coffee house in the cloud, a place for us to build community, get centered, and feel connected. Today is Friday, May 29th, 2020, which is the first day of Shavuot, so Chag Sameach to everyone out there who is celebrating. I'm John Roberts from Harvard Pilgrim Health Care's mindfulness program, and we are back with Tara Healey, the founder and director of that program. Good morning to you, Tara.
Good morning, John. Good morning, everyone. Welcome.
So in just a second, I'll hand things over to Tara to lead us in a 10-minute guided meditation. After we'll get ourselves into a Q&A period, and then we'll wrap things up just before 9 a.m. Now, you may have noticed at the bottom of your screen an option to open up a chat box. At any time, please open the chat box, use it to type whatever questions or comments you might have. On that note, Tara, is there anything you'd like to ask the folks at home to comment on as we get started here?
Yeah, a question that I came across the other day that I think is an interesting one is, what is life like for you now? So maybe, in 3 or 4 words, like, what is life like for you now?
Great. So it looks like we have a nice group of people practicing with us this morning. It's great to be with you all today. Please do keep in mind that only Tara and I will be able to see what you type. And if we don't read your question or comment on the air, please know that we do read and appreciate them all. And before we close, I will point you towards some other ways that you can get in touch with us as well. So this is interesting. There's already a little bit of a theme growing. Somebody says Groundhog Day. Another person says very repetitive. On a similar note, someone says, very limited. The world feels smaller. Someone says the world feels quieter. One person's feeling cautious, different, a little bit weird. Somebody says wash, rinse, repeat. Unsettling, unsure, twilight zone. Exciting, yet a bit scary during this time. With a baby on the way. Well, I know what that's about. So that's all right.
Yes, you do.
So that gives us a good range of what's going on out there.
Yeah.
So Tara, I'm going to turn things over to you, but before I do so, I want to mention that, there's a question that came in during one of the previous sessions, but which we didn't have time to answer during that session. So as you're aware, mindfulness people can be pretty acronym mad, and one of the acronyms that gets passed around is RAIN, R-A-I-N. When this was mentioned in one of the previous sessions, one of our viewers had asked if we would mind explaining what RAIN would mean in greater detail. So I'm hoping that maybe you can lead us off with that.
Yeah, sure. No, I would love to. In fact, RAIN is an acronym that a wonderful meditation teacher by the name of Michelle McDonald came up with. Tara Brach, who's also a wonderful meditation teacher, has popularized the term. But let me kind of tick through what each of the letters mean. So, and then I'll go back and unpack it a little bit, and then we'll get right into practice. So RAIN, so the R means recognize, the A is accept or allow, the I is interest, and the N is note and nurture. And I've changed that a little bit from how Michelle and Tara Brach talk about it to make it a little bit more accessible. But let's go to the first one. So recognize. I mean, this simply means waking up and knowing what is happening. So consciously acknowledging thoughts and feelings. And I think a good example of this, and that many of us can relate to, is let's say you had a difficult encounter with someone and it left you feeling off in some way. And there can be a tendency to kind of ignore or distract oneself, especially with things that are unpleasant. But the idea with recognize, is that it's sort of like with mindfulness, where I say it's a quality of mind that's awake and aware as opposed to being lost in thought. The recognize is waking up and looking more closely, like, oh, this has been triggering and I feel anger or fear, fill in the blank. The next would be to accept or allow. And that really, what that means is you're not approving or you're disapproving. You're kind of relaxing the resistance to what is happening. And you're connecting with the feeling as it is. So it's sort of that scientist and a subject. So there isn't a need to dismiss, resist, ignore. But, sometimes there can be self-talk of like, I shouldn't feel this way, or why did I say that? instead, once you've recognized you've been caught by an emotion or triggered, just accept and allow it to be there. The next thing is interest. That's the I. And that's really, you're bringing the mind of a young child upright and curious about what's happening. The question to ask yourself is, how am I experiencing this in my body? So what's so important to this practice is you're coming out of the intellect, the thought, and you're actually coming into the physical expression of that emotion. So again, like, what does it feel like at the level of sensation? Not thinking about it, but tingling, vibration, heat, whatever is happening. And the N can be simply just your noting. So those two can be coupled. So you've got the interest, and the note is just you're making soft mental labels of, tingling, vibration, and really noticing where in your body is that particular emotion of fear or grief or angst settling in. Now, you can do it with positive emotions as well. It's just a lot easier. So this is great for practicing with difficult emotions. And it can happen, it's like practice. It can happen in split seconds. I mean, this isn't something that needs a long, drawn out amount of time. And what meditation does is it provides the anchoring and the stillness, which supports investigation and exploration. So that's, again, meditation, why meditation is so important, because it steadies attention and it will support the recognition that you're caught and triggered, the ability to allow it, to let it be, the interest in terms of what's happening physically. And I also want to add, it's not a bad idea to just nurture a bit, just, may I be well, just simple phrases, even if you don't feel it. The idea is that you have an intention to feel it at some point. The last thing I'll say before we practice is I was on a webinar last night with a neuroscientist, Amishi Jha, and she was in a conversation with Rich Hernandez. And it was really interesting. At one point, she got a question related to, well, what if I don't want to be with that difficult emotion and then physical feeling? And what she said is that disregarding reality is not ultimately going to help us. Now, what I'm going to add to that is that when things are really challenging and difficult, it is fine to take distraction breaks and, to exercise, to read, the idea, though, is that there is this willingness to come back and sort of step into, well, what's the physicality of this triggering? What is actually happening? And allow it to be there. So having said that, and given the kinds of things that you said about how you're feeling this morning and how life is like for you now, maybe we can use some of that as the data point for our practice, and we'll be a bit more body-centered today. So taking a minute to settle in the seated position and surrendering your weight into the support of the surface. And let's actually begin by taking a deep breath through the nose and a little bit of a longer exhale through the mouth. Just allow the body to surrender into the support of the surface. So whether you're sitting or standing, and bringing an upright, engaged posture with a spine that is straight but not stiff. And just seeing how things are, the activity of your morning so far today. Just noticing how the body feels. So wide angle attention over the whole body. And perhaps aware of the points of contact with the body and the surface. For a moment, receiving sound that might be in the room that you're in or outside of the room. And just receptive, so without a need to label it or think about it. It's just literally receptive to sound. And beginning to allow sound to remain in the background and bringing awareness back to the whole body. And we'll do a scan of the body today and just sort of noticing sensations or even lack of sensations. So let's start at the very top of the head and bringing awareness down over the sides of the head and the back of the head. So including the ears, just notice sensation or a lack of sensation. And bringing awareness now to the face. So the forehead and the eyes, the nose, the jaw, the mouth, the lips and tongue, the chin, softening the muscles of the face to the degree that you can. Just simply noticing what's there. Beginning to bring the awareness down over the neck and shoulders. And continuing down the upper arms, elbows, the forearms and the hands. Noticing sensation or lack of sensation. Notice the weight of the arms and the hands. And perhaps if your hands and arms are touching your body in some way, just aware of the point of contact. And releasing that and bringing awareness to the torso. So the entire front of the body and the back of the body. Aware of the internal organs, the heartbeat. Without a need to change anything, just simply aware of the physical sensations in this part of the body. So the chest and the solar plexus. And bringing awareness down over the hips and thighs. And just aware of sensation or lack of sensation, points of contact. So the thighs and the knees, the lower legs and the feet. Aware of sensation or a lack of sensation. Points of contact. And releasing that and coming back to just whole body awareness and seeing if whatever emotion you might be feeling this morning or spoke to or thought about, is there a way that you can locate that in your body? Where might that have lodged itself and be wanting a little attention? So literally it's just, not changing it in any way. It's a simple acknowledgement of vibration or tingling or tightness, or heat. allowing it to be as it is, bringing the mind of a child upright and curious, receptive. If at any time you're having trouble locating exactly where that feeling or emotion has expressed itself in the body, it's always fine to simply return to breath sensation. Just tracking the breath in and tracking the breath out at that place in your body where it's most pronounced. And as you feel ready, and gradually re-engaging, if the eyes were closed, and gently allowing the eyes to open and reconnecting with the space around you, reconnecting with our session.
Thank you for that, Tara.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I want to try something a little bit different. I want you to actually lead me through the rain practice. Okay, so let me frame this up. So I wrote a piece for the Mind the Moment Facebook page, which should be posted later today, in which I
Yep.
talk about forgetting to put away a carton of milk overnight, and
Yeah.
then having to practice some industrial grade self-compassion in order to tear myself out of the loop of self-recrimination. But let me
Yes.
take you back to that moment when I
Yeah.
saw I'd left the milk out, and immediately
Okay.
thought to myself, "It's not the milk that is spoiled, John. It's your soul." So I want you to walk me through how rain could have helped me in that moment. And actually, I'm going to. I know
Yeah.
sometimes we go through stuff fast, and so I want to.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring this
Oh,
up,
nice. Nice.
and
Great.
I should mention that the last letter N, often you mentioned this, gets it's kind of there's kind of a floating interpretation. So this might be a little different than you'd prefer to sort of lead us through now. But I'll let you
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
speak to that. So anyway, okay, so I'm there. I'm like I am a terrible person. How do I use rain to sort of get a handle on that?
Yeah, no, great. It's great, John. And I absolutely love this graphic. I think this is from Mindful, maybe mindful.org. Anyway, it's great. So, the first thing I think, John, is that you're caught in the story about what a bad person you are. So you're not seeing it. That's called ordinary awareness. I've heard teachers describe it as ordinary awareness. Like there's just this dialogue running about how could I have done that? That was really dumb, blah, blah, blah. Now the milk is bad, right? So,
First of all, I'm not going to be insulted by the fact you called my awareness ordinary, but we'll go with that.
so there is a point, the more we practice, the more this happens with greater frequency, is that there is this point where you can actually, and this may or may not have happened to you, John, where you actually see the storyline. It's that meta awareness where you're like, oh, so that's kind of the recognition that you're berating yourself, right? You may or may not have had that, but the idea is that the more that we practice, the more we wake up to the storyline. So it's oh, wow, okay. And then it's just the acceptance and allowance, or even acknowledgement. The A could be acknowledgement. It's like just connecting with that emotion as it is. Okay, berating. That's sort of what it sounded like to me. So, okay, you wake out of the trance of the stories. I'm awake and aware, meta awareness. I can see what I'm doing. All right, I'm going to accept and allow that this is what's showing up for me. And now can I actually come out of that storyline of berating and see, like, how's it physically in my body? Where am I noticing it? And, for people, it's different. Could be neck, shoulders, solar plexus. We all have different ways of expressing difficulty. And the other thing is, the way that I used N this morning with everybody is that a way to capture what's happening physically is to make mental notes. Tingling, okay, vibration, or, but the idea too, with this non-identification, is that we didn't actually invite that berating dialogue in our head. We did not. It arose from, longstanding habits of mind that we all have. So can I just see that that is a habit pattern without berating myself for having the habit pattern? Like, I should be bigger than that, or I should be more evolved, or something. It's like, just see that that has arisen. What's the physical experience in the body? Now, there could be a logical question, how can this possibly help? And what I would say is to test it for yourself. And that's true with everything in this practice, is that you test it for yourself and see, over time, what you notice. Because what starts to happen is that we're kind of uncoupling these habit patterns of mind so that they don't own us so strongly.
Okay, so it's like I'm in the movie, and then I'm able to instead be watching the movie. So it's like I'm on the screen, but then I'm sort of in the audience watching what's going on, and then able to more positively critique the performance. Like, these people shouldn't be berating themselves. They're fine people. Okay. This
absolutely true, John. And the other day I mentioned to you briefly that I got stung by a bee in my house, and I was literally.
Okay, so I don't want you to bury the lead here, because what you revealed to me eventually. So when I get stung by bees, it's because I'm trying to kill the bees, and you told me you were actually trying to save the bee, and this was definitely a no good deed goes unpunished situation, I think.
Yes, and I was trying to save the bee and I got stung. And then I also had all the dialogue about it. And then I had a fear dialogue because my sister has a recent allergy to bees. She never had, and now she does. So I'm like, maybe I have an allergy. So it's like, but when you can start to see the fear, and we're using really sort of benign emotions, John, but this, this practice can be used with much bigger things. And, the idea is that you're not thinking about it, you're actually feeling it and starting to notice where it is in the body and allow for it to be there.
So I want to make sure that folks know that they are more than invited to ask questions.
Yes.
While folks are gathering their thoughts, I like what you said, that we're talking about the sort of small things right now, but in doing so and practicing with the small things, it makes it easier to then deal with the big things, right? So there, the final, or one of the steps in the RAIN process is finding the feeling of in your body. So what if I'm having difficulty doing that? What if I can't sort of fix on it?
So if you can't locate it specifically, it's fine to just see if you can just broaden the range of the body awareness. So just, open it up instead of, trying to locate, okay, it's in my solar plexus, or it's landed in my hips, or my, just broaden the awareness of the whole body. The idea is that you're coming out of the storylines and just coming into the physicality. So it might be that it's not lodged itself in a place that is narrowly focused, but it's broader.
Do you find that you have a particular place where where these feelings get held for you, or are there different places?
Yeah, no, pretty much for me, I'd say like solar plexus, like kind of gut.
Yeah, I got the jaw. This side mostly. That's why I talk like this. Someone commented, sometimes I find the negative emotions make my heart beat faster. Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, so you can sort of sort of
Yeah.
locate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is here's an interesting one. And this is an interesting question. Is there a goal we should all be trying to reach, like kindness and forgiveness for ourselves? Or is berating ourselves sometimes okay? So that's
You know, I think that ultimately, I'm just going to go to that part of the question, is there a goal? Ultimately, what we are learning about are a couple things. We're learning about our habit patterns of mind and what supports us and helps us and what doesn't. So I think the question is, it's a valuable question. We are also learning that every thought, emotion, and body sensation has a birth, a life, and it will move. So these, and the idea is that we're learning about this changing nature of every thought, emotion, and body sensation. And it's one thing to berate yourself. It's another thing to be more aware and learn that leaving the milk out makes it go sour or undrinkable, or, that I think is berating yourself helping? How is it feeling for you? So again, I would say, all these things are for your investigation.
Yeah, and I guess you might say there's like such a thing as like a wise, berating or unwise berating.
Yeah, skillful, helpful, yeah.
I mean, like that takes to the point, like let's not do this again, or let's try not to do this again, but doesn't go quite as far as I'm a garbage person. So
yeah.
Not crossing over. Well, so as
Yeah.
we're ending, Tara, I want to reiterate something you said a moment ago. The RAIN practice is often was popularized by Tara Brach, but it was introduced by Michelle McDonald,
Yes.
who incidentally is the first woman to have ever led a formal meditation retreat in Burma, which I thought was interesting. So,
yeah, no, she's done a lot of work in Burma. Yeah. And actually, I was sitting the retreat with her 20 years ago when she talked about RAIN.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. This is like it's like you were there at the when I'm trying to think of some classic rock example. First time Story with Heaven was played.
But yes.
So I was reading an interview with Michelle McDonald the other day, and she said something which really stood out to me, which was this. She said, "I recently came from teaching a teen retreat." She said, and at the end of the retreat, one teen said to me, "Thanks for making me feel like I have the right to know the truth." And I thought this was a really beautiful anecdote from Michelle McDonald, because, for all groups of people at certain times in history, and for some groups of people at most times in history, it can feel like truth is a privilege and not a right. And this, unfortunately, can sometimes extend to mindfulness practice, which in certain arenas can come across as something that's only meant for a certain type or class of person. And so I want to honor everyone in our mindfulness community who's working hard to make it clear that mindfulness practice is open and available to everyone. And like the truth itself, is a right in the beginning and a right in the middle and a right in the end. So we're contributing to this in our own small way by opening up some additional offerings, which are free, open to the public, and virtually delivered. Just a few weeks from now, Tara will be leading our very first free public and virtual workshop introducing the basic principles and practices of mindfulness. Let me actually bring up a slide on this. There we go. Tara, do you want to say a few words about what your vision is for this workshop?
Yes, yeah. I thought that it made sense because the coffee houses are really condensed and kind of short, that this would give more of an opportunity. We could have an hour together where maybe the first 30 minutes or so is I'm kind of going over the definition of mindfulness, the definition of meditation, how those two work together. And then we just leave the last half hour or maybe even longer to dialogue and have a Q&A. So it's just really giving a little bit more expansion. And
Tara, I feel like I need to apologize because this is our sort of the promo piece we made about, I hope it's not too weird to be seeing the picture of yourself on screen. So as you can see, we'll be offering this workshop at 2 different times, Tuesday, June 9th, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, and also Wednesday, June 10th, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. Tara will be presenting basically the same material during each of these slots, although it would, that will be changed a little bit by audience participation Q&A. And so folks should feel free to attend both if they like. No registration is required. Everyone is welcome. So tell your friends, your family, colleagues, anyone else within earshot who might want to know. The links to attend can be found at harvardpilgrim.org/livingwellatHome. While you're there, please check out the other free, public, and virtual workshops we're offering, which include yoga classes, Zumba classes, weight management, nutrition classes, and many, 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 many more things. So for our own part, we'll be back with you every Tuesday and Friday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find the links to these sessions and other resources at our main site, harvardpilgrim.org/mindfulness. Drop us a line at askmtm@harvardpilgrim.org or leave a comment on our Facebook page. Let us know what's on your mind. Do you have questions for our experts? You can also leave us a voicemail at my desk number, which is 617-509-7047. I promise I will never pick up this line live, so you can just leave a voicemail. You can rewatch this session and older sessions on our YouTube page and find guided meditations on our SoundCloud page as well. So Tara, thank you for your guidance this morning. I'm wondering if you would leave us with one resource that you think people might find especially useful as they continue to grow their practice, either at this time in particular or at any time.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of ideas, but one thing I noticed, somebody asked a question about that they didn't understand necessarily what I meant about every emotion has a what, and it has a corresponding physical expression. Every emotion has a corresponding physical expression. All right, so I'm going to give you, this is going to seem very counterintuitive, but I came across an article in Forbes that I thought was really well worth reading. It is called, "Can Meditation Make Us Better Traders and Investors?" So it is by Brett Steenbarger, and it's really well done and very interesting. So it's "Can Meditation Make Us Better Traders and Investors?" Brett Steenbarger, and it's in Forbes. So I would say Google it and take a read. It's good.
All right, there's your challenge for the week, folks. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. See you soon. Have a momentous day and weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.